So, can we talk about how nobody prepares you for the fact that in life you have to start over several times?
Oh, 100%, right? Like growing up, we thought that we had it all figured out. We were going to be on this path and we just stayed on it.
And then you start like thinking, okay, I've got my career picked. My life is sorted. Everything is stable.
Right. And instead, like adulthood like takes over and there's a lot of variables that you didn't have factored in.
Yeah. Um, just little things like career changes, relationship shifts, health surprises, moves, identity changes, all of these things.
Yeah. And then those plot twists and then waking up and realizing that you're starting over in a way that you had never planned because of those curveballs, those plot twists.
So today we're going to talk about those unexpected turns, those pivots in life, the things, the curveballs, those things that you cannot plan for, and how we go about navigating them.
Yeah. So, hi guys. Welcome back to
Hello.
Unravel and Uplift. It's Wednesday, so welcome. Glad you're with us. This is number 8. Um, this is really where we continue to stop pretending that everything is fine and we actually talk about what's going on.
And I think we want to talk about how you start your life. And I don't mean as a kid. I mean like kind of as a young adult, teenager, and I'm seeing this with my son right now. He's kind of embarking on that point in his life where he's got to start figuring things out. And how you might think, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I even say to myself still now, what am I going to be when I'm older?
Mm-hmm.
Because I still don't know.
Still figuring it out. Yeah, and that's okay. That's
Yeah.
part of the adventure.
And so I think it's taking that whole thing of like, there is this expectation in life to have it all figured out, to have it planned. But often life doesn't go that way,
Yeah.
and things sneak up on you.
Yeah.
And then how do we navigate those things?
Right. And I think about when you're young and you would do like your like vision board. I would cut out things from a magazine and this is how I wanted my life to represent, right? And you thought it was really that simple that I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and why would anything change? Because
Yeah.
I guess we were naive to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then life happens, right? And sometimes that's exciting. Like it's exciting to go on those adventures, and sometimes it's really scary and it's nerve-wracking and it's a little shattering to your life sometimes. And how do we maneuver around all of that?
And then if you have to start over,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'll use an example. I obviously moved across the pond from England, where I'd spent pretty much 30 years of my life. Was it that long? I'm trying to think. My age, I forget
She
my
was
age all the
10
time.
when she actually moved over here.
I was in my early 30s, and I'd grown up really around everything that I knew, everything that was familiar, and then we moved across the ocean um, to a country where we spoke the same language, yet so much was different.
Mm-hmm.
And things about that were really exciting, but things about that made me feel really insecure and uncertain.
Yeah. And you feel alone
Yeah,
and you were here with your kids and you're
yeah,
trying to put the brave face on and charter the way when the reality is there was probably a lot of times where you felt alone
yeah,
and Nick came over and started working right away
hmm
and you're like, what do I do
yeah,
with these people?
yeah. And I'd taken a point where we had decided that it was best that I didn't work for the first couple of years because the kids were so young. So I'd sold my business. I was suddenly not working, a stay-at-home mum with 2 young children in a
Yeah.
country that I had to learn everything new and
Mhm.
how to navigate it and also make friends.
Right.
There was this pressure of I need to know people
Right. And have
because
your kids make friends.
yeah,
Right. That's a lot of pressure
yeah,
for everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there were things about that was so exciting,
Yeah.
but also things about it when I reflect on it that I was scared about.
Hmm.
It was kind of a scary time as
Yeah.
well.
So starting over is a very human experience
Mhm.
and we're going to unravel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be as big as a move across the pond.
Right.
you know, just to add the
Right.
context.
But that's
there.
the thing about life. You don't know what life's going to give you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's little things in life that are small bumps in the road, and there's major hurdles that will unravel here in a little bit that can really tip your world upside down. And how do you deal with that?
Well, and also there's a big difference, isn't there, between choosing something and it just happening to you.
Hmm.
And I think when you're choosing it, you're in on that.
Right.
You're like, okay, this is a decision I have made or others have made to do this. But when something just happens, that can be pretty terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unexpected.
So we'll start with the myth of the straight path. I think this is a good place to launch into this today.
Hmm.
So many of us, I think, grew up believing that life would follow a predictable path. And what I mean by that is if you think about your education, your career, relationship
Yep.
stability, um, I know when I was younger, I thought I was just going to follow this straight line.
Hmm.
You make these choices and here you go. We're along that yellow brick road,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Totally.
nice and easy.
Yeah. And I, going back to how I touched on this earlier, whereas, doing those little vision boards that you just thought life was just going to fall into place. It was actually all going to do exactly as planned. And I remember going through, from my personal journey, going through grade school, high school. I grew up in a smallish town in Iowa. It was very monkey see, monkey do. You just did what everybody else did. It was a very cookie cutter environment. No one really veered off the path. And you just followed suit. Um, and I remember those moments in high school of like, what am I gonna do? And going to my guidance counselor, and they didn't really have a great plan for me either. They were just like, this is sure, you're just gonna finish up here and then you're gonna go to college, right? Um, and so I'm like, oh, okay. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I didn't know where my career path was going to take me. Like as a child, I had dreams and aspirations, but my family wasn't in a position for me to go to an interior design school on the coast. Like we had barely left this Midwest. We didn't have the financial means to do that either. So, and I guess even though I'm traveled and experienced now at that time in my life, would I have been ready to take that kind of plunge alone? Probably not. Um, so I started in community college and it just was like more of the same. It was like high school repeat and nothing really resonated with me. I started taking crazy classes that just were of interest, like East Asian cultures, like things that, what am I going to do with that? Like, turns out I did do some things with that, but we'll get to that another day. Um, and I just, I I was at the point where I was like, I was seeing my friends go on in a great bigger journey and I didn't know what to do. So then I had to work because I had a roommate, but I wasn't living at home with my parents. I had to pay the bills. So I was working two, sometimes three jobs while trying to go to college. And it just never worked for me. So I never finished that traditional path. And when I started coaching with Claire, that was one of my points because sometimes I still struggle in my heart of hearts. Like, am I good enough? Does the does what's not on paper validate me still in my 40s?
Mhm.
Like, clearly, I believe I've proven myself. And maybe because I didn't finish college the way that my peers did, I felt inadequate. And but I felt like I've always had to prove myself. Like, I deserve to have a seat at the table. Um, that, I had to work harder than everybody else to prove myself because I didn't have this piece of paper that's my rite of passage. So that curveball for me was on planned. Like it was a self-fulfilling prophecy that worked out that way. But there's times where those little demons still sort of haunt me. And my
Mhm.
coach, Claire, will have to bring me, back up and be like, yeah, that was a curveball for you, but it doesn't define you and who you are. And if people don't see that value in you, or if you're going to have that be your own insecurity, then that's going to be your own crippling, you know, what things that you need to battle and deal with within. So, I mean, that definitely is a starting over when I didn't knew I had to. Because if there's times when I get in front of a group or other people that they go back to that and I'm like, why am I starting over with this? Like I have a long history of proving myself and that can haunt us.
And I think we often get hung up,
Yeah.
all of us, on something that society kind of suggests you have to do it this way, and doing it
Yes.
differently,
Yeah. The social norms.
kind
Hmm.
of then is, oh, that's not the right way.
Right.
But I think one thing that I urge anyone that has taken a different path or is considering a different path as well, I want to be aware that there may be listeners here that are like embarking on this point in their life, is that I think there's a lot to be learned about the navigation
Yes.
of that,
Yeah.
um, and doing things a different way.
Yeah.
Because, I think we're seeing now with our younger generations that this straight path, and I'm
Hmm.
going to call it the straight path,
Right.
doesn't fit everyone. It
Mm-mm.
doesn't suit everyone and their purpose,
No.
and you may start on the straight path and then start taking that windy path. Um, and I think there's lots of things to be learned about that navigation and really kind of digging into who you are,
Yes.
and how you deal with that.
Right. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess upon reflection, those little tweaks in life, those job changes,
Yeah.
those choices, they really define who you are as a person. And
Mhm.
you, I, I guess you shouldn't look back on them as a failure or a wrong decision, but it's really created the person that you are. And that actually can be a positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's like if you think about things as well that maybe sometimes are out of your control as well,
Hmm.
like careers, sometimes, we're obviously planning it
Yeah.
and, taking what we can and going for certain jobs and looking for things. But you think about relationships, like I'm sure everyone's been part of a relationship where you did not choose to end that relationship,
Right.
and that is that curveball then of, okay, my life's going to look different because I haven't chosen this. I'm on the end of it,
Right.
or someone gets sick,
Right.
that there's health issues that
Hmm.
you had not planned for
Right. Yeah. This
that coming
wasn't in
into
the
your life.
plan.
Yeah.
Right. And to know that we're always evolving as people.
Yeah.
So I tell this to my husband, Scott, all the time that the person that Scott and I, when we started our relationship, we are completely different people than what we were then. And if we both don't continue to evolve and change together and respect how each other has changed and be open to that growth that each person has experienced, we would fail, right? Like you have to continue to grow and change together. And that's because we're not that same person we were 10, 20 years ago. And you could even say that in your career as well as you've grown. Like the person that I was in my early 20s, in my mindset of, being young and knowing it all and maybe throwing a little bit more caution to the wind, maybe not being as patient or listening. I definitely talked more than I listened. Um, that's just part of your path. And that those changes in life are what make you, I think, as dynamic as you can be now because you've had to, I guess, get that wisdom, right?
Well, I think you touched on a really good word there, like evolution.
Hmm.
I feel like we're all evolving,
Yes.
over the years, like and that's because of things around us, like different needs,
Yeah.
like I need to now buy a house, or
Hmm.
at least you feel like you need to buy a house
Right.
because society makes you feel that way. I know someone who actually younger than I am that doesn't own a house and they house it
Hmm.
professionally, and they have a young family and they move around the country because their child is not in school right now, and
Yeah.
they may also homeschool, I think, is one of the options they're thinking, and so therefore they don't have that commitment of a mortgage. And
Right.
I think how neat and how cool that there are
Hmm.
different ways of doing things now than maybe were available to us
Yes.
back when we were, a similar age, or maybe there were people out there that I just didn't realize were already doing those kind of
Right.
things in a different way. And but I think that evolution is so key.
Yeah. And that stereotypical life of that straight path, as you
Uh-huh.
call it, where especially growing up in middle of Iowa, smaller town, like, okay, in your late 20s to early 30s, you're probably going to get married.
Mhm.
And then when are you going to have kids? Like there was the expectation of this was the path you're going to choose. And then you see other cultures or you see people who live in larger cities or have a different upbringing. And then they wait much later in life to do some of these things. But when you're stuck in the trenches of this so-called life, you there's a lot of pressures that you put on yourself to follow that path because that's what my peers are doing. This is what my family expects of me. Is that um, that time clock, we talk about time a lot. I talk about it. Um, this is the window that this needs to happen. I should be, a executive or a partner, or I should have X amount of kids by now. I should live in this kind of house. I should be making this much money. There's all these stereotypical expectations of what you think your life should be. And when that doesn't go as planned, yeah,
Yeah, it leaves you in a space that I feel like as a coach, I see people in a lot. Is that
yeah.
in between,
Hmm.
that
The
in
messy middle
between.
we talk
Yeah,
about a lot
yeah,
here. A whole
yeah,
podcast is based on the messy middle because
yeah.
that's where we're living. Yeah,
And it's real,
it's
it's
real.
real. And some of those could be chosen and planned for,
Hmm.
and others just come and bite you,
Yeah.
just unexpectedly happen. And how you navigate those, I think, is where there can be so much richness in terms
Hmm.
of what you learn about yourself,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so researcher Bruce Feiler is the author of Life is in the Transitions, and they studied hundreds of people navigating change. What Bruce found is that the average adult experiences 3 to 5 major life disruptions, which he calls life quakes. These can include divorce, career shifts, job loss, health challenges, becoming a parent, caring for a parent. I mean, the sandwich generation right now is
Hmm.
huge, because people are living longer. So you've got those individuals that are raising a child, but at the same time caring for an elderly parent, relocation, identity changes. And what Feiler explains is that transitions are not the exception in life, but they are the rule. And I think that's really insightful to me, okay,
For sure.
because we talk about this straight path,
Hmm.
but what Bruce in essence is saying is no, that straight path is a fallacy,
Right. And
you
it's a
know?
part of what makes you human. It's
Hmm.
part of your journey. Like, I guess if you go through this life thinking that everything's going to be as planned, the littlest thing can really turn your whole world upside down.
Yeah. And I mean, so major life transitions, like my husband, he found a brain tumor before we got married. So we were like in our late 20s. But in the UK, they wouldn't touch it. We moved over to America and it was causing him more and more issues. And so they decided to remove it. He went through 5 brain surgeries. I was not prepared to be a carer for my husband,
Hmm.
as well as caring for young children. Um, that that threw me a huge curveball. That was difficult. We're in a new country, 5 major surgeries, and I'm so used to seeing him so strong and upbeat, and these really took their toll on him.
A toll like you're telling all of you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's tough.
and nothing prepared me for that.
Hmm.
Um, and going through it and coming out of it straight after, it was quite raw. But now after each surgery, I think there's things that he learned about himself that I learn about myself and our family learn about us, that then continue to evolve every time that another surgery happened. And I think, I don't know, I feel like it's made us way more resilient, um, individually,
Yeah.
but also as a family for things that can be thrown our way,
Hmm.
and I hope that sets, as much as I didn't want my kids to go through that,
Right.
I hope that sets them in good stead to know that as they experience their life, things can get hard, things can
Hmm.
get difficult, um, and they can set you back a little,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean you can't get back to a track. I'm not
Right.
saying a straight path, but to a track,
Yeah. And it's like the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger,
Yeah.
right? Like you have to go through some shit
Hmm.
sometimes to find that gratitude,
Yeah.
to really and value your health. Um, Tell your people around you that you love them every day because life is fragile and life is a gift, and you don't know when life will throw you that curveball where you can easily take things for granted
Yeah.
and not really fully understand why things are happening to you or people that you care about as you go through the motions. Yeah, that can be heavy
Yeah.
for sure.
And I
Yeah.
mean, it can also be things that are lighter as well, can't it? Like,
Hmm.
and I'm not saying breaking a bone is lighter, but, you know, kids break bones,
Right.
it's like that throws you a
Especially
curveball.
yours.
Yeah, especially mine. Uh, they have a history of it.
Another
Uh,
story, another time.
but people suddenly get furloughed or laid off,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, everything's going as planned. I've been a part of a downsizing, a layoff, a restructure where everything's great. You know, you're loving what you're doing, the checks are coming in, you're paying the bills, you have a good relationship with your clients, the business seems good, and then bam, you're just like, what? Like the rug gets pulled out from
Mhm.
underneath. It's a shock to your system. I mean, I internalized it like, was this something I did? Even though it impacted really our whole sales team, other people in our company. But you have a tendency to self reflect and
Mhm.
be like, why was I, the sacrificial lamb? And, why did this happen? What am I going to do now? And you worry about the next, house payment and all the things. And can I, you know, fall back on my partner to help carry that load? And I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to go through those kind of things and figure out how you bounce back.
And then I know, like with the weather this week, I've heard of several people that, had their vacations booked and then they get stuck places because of, a plane doesn't take off.
Right.
So I feel like daily life,
Yeah.
you have things happen to you,
Hmm.
someone has a fender bender,
Right.
like a
Yes.
little bump, all these things kind of just happen,
Yeah.
um, unexpectedly. And so I think, there's this emotional side to having to pivot from something where you expected it to go
Hmm.
XYZ and it ended up going ABC.
Right. And you think about how many examples we've just shared
Hmm.
in this short amount of time. And that's part of our makeup. And for you listeners out there, you probably have many instances in life where you've had changes. And that's just, I guess, part of the human makeup, right? That's just part of going through life.
I've got an example of a funny one that's kind of a little bit light. But I had a Roomba, one of those
The robotic
robotic
vacuum.
vacuums, yeah. And my dog's pretty good at not pooping in the house. One day the dog pooped in the house. The Roomba set to go off, sucked it up, and then spread it around the whole house.
That
So,
is what we call a shitty situation, folks. That is a shitty situation.
oh, it was a shit show.
Oh, I can't even imagine. It was probably all over, just tracks
Everything,
of shit
like
everywhere.
rugs,
Yes.
floors, the house just stank of
Did
it.
you just like, what happened?
Uh-huh. And like that was something that was just through my day. Completely all the plans I had for my day suddenly went out of the window because something unexpected happened, which
Right.
meant I had to clean up dog poop
Right.
from the whole of my house.
Yeah.
I'm
That curveball.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That Roomba went in the trash.
Right. Yeah.
Never got
There's no cleaning that. Yeah. Yeah. So
uh,
again, you're in good company.
yeah.
If you have a curveball, whether it's your situation with your Roomba or big life events,
Yeah.
you're not alone in those changes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think there's something worth addressing in terms of the emotional side of these starting overs or overcoming these, I'm going to call them setbacks. Starting over often comes with complicated emotions. People might feel grief, uncertainty,
Hmm.
fear, excitement, or relief. And psychologist William Bridges describes these transitions as having three phases: ending, the messy middle, which is like where we're the
Yeah.
like
Where we're
sweet
living.
spot. Again, not experts, but just the messy middle is where we are.
Right.
And then a new beginning.
Hmm. That's the uplift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Mhm.
interestingly, the hardest stage is often that in between phase.
For sure. Yeah. Trying to figure it out. Like we talked about, like you dealing with Nick's health
Mhm.
and how long is this journey going to be? How long is this road for us? How do we maneuver through this? Is there light at the end of the tunnel or a downsizing or reorg at a company where you're like stalking LinkedIn, you're trying to network? Like how long is this going to, the unknown and that could consume you. Yeah. The middle is tough.
Well, I think it's just really disorientating, isn't it? When you've got
Hmm.
your sights on something, and I look at my kids sometimes, and it's like they go to Chick-fil-A and they're out, they've not got something in stock
Oh
that they
God.
want
Yeah. The
to.
sky's falling.
Oh my gosh, it's like, what am I going to do? The
Right.
thing I wanted to order is not there available to order.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
oh
the end
my
of the world.
goodness, yeah.
Yeah.
But it disorientates you,
Mhm.
But I think that disorientation and that moment of not feeling okay
Yeah.
is actually okay. That's where the growth happens. That's
Yeah.
where the magic starts to kick in.
Yeah.
It's where that creativity and renewal can happen.
Yeah. That I guess it's that identity shift where you have to redefine who you are, right?
Mhm.
Like this XYZ has happened to you. And now does that define you? And how do you maneuver? How do you get past to who you thought you were to who you're going to become,
Yeah.
really? Right?
And how do you sit in that messy middle?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we have to sit in it.
Yeah.
It happens and you might be there for a little while.
Right. Yeah. So leaving that career, becoming a parent. I mean, that's terrifying. I
Mhm.
mean, the thought that they even let us leave a hospital with a child and said,
Right.
here you go.
Mhm.
Here you go. Like you have to be X amount years old to join the military, X amount to drink alcohol. You can have a child at any age and they're like, go for it. Yeah, sure. Take responsibility for another human,
With no
right?
manual.
With
No
no
manual
manual.
at
Like, yeah,
all.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
books, but like, again, that book is not going to be the guide of how it's really going to work for you. Yeah.
And lots of experts around, right? I remember when I first had kids, everyone's an expert.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's an expert on what you should be doing with your own child.
Right.
And again, it's that disorientation
Hmm.
and really kind of figuring out your path with it,
Right.
and
Yeah.
overcoming those roadblocks. And
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so you might ask, if the role you use to define yourself changes, who are you now?
Yeah. And who do you want to be?
Hmm.
Right. So now you've been dealt this change of hand, could be a shitty hand. And you're like, well, I guess I'm on the reinvention tour. How do I get around this? Who do I want to be now? Now I can rewrite this story for myself.
And how kind of freeing is that as
Hmm.
well?
Even in the worst situations, you're like, how am I going to deal with this? Like, I will hear stories about people going through something. And I'm like, how would I do that?
Hmm.
How would I deal with that? Is this how I would handle this? And I feel like I'm constantly rolling the scenarios through my mind so I can be prepared when something does throw a curveball at me, right? Because it's setting the stage for that unknown.
I'd probably handle it way worse than most people. It's the reality.
We don't want to find out. We don't want to find out. Yeah.
So, organizational psychologist Herminia Ibarra,
I'm so glad you said that because I would have
I'm
massacred that.
hoping that is the correct pronunciation, Herminia Ibarra, author of Working Identity, studied people reinventing their careers and identities. And her research showed something surprising. People rarely figure out their next chapter through thinking alone.
Hmm. Yeah. And I get that. Like, if you're just thinking about it, you're figuring it in the perfect scenario. It's going to go as
Mhm.
planned and you're back to that straight path,
Yeah.
right?
I,
Not always a straight path.
I
Yeah.
love the word she uses, experimentation.
Hmm.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love the thought that something happens and in essence we experiment, things like new projects,
Hmm.
hobbies, communities, interests, conversations. It's almost like you're figuring out the next chapter by living it.
Yeah. Like this podcast,
Hmm.
like this is episode 8. I think that we've improved since episode 1. You guys will
Let's
tell us.
hope.
You guys will be the judge and jury in that.
If not, we need some more experimentation.
Right, we're going to keep going. So join us. But we're learning as we go. I mean, the technology side has been a little daunting. It's a lot to take this conversation and make it come to life for you guys. And to keep up on the social aspect. And we do have help, which we're greatly appreciative of that.
Yes.
But it is that experiment. Like, okay, we're doing this, or like we're figuring it out.
So we learn who we are by testing possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, clarity comes after action, not before. I This makes me think about, like learning in school and stuff. Like I was always that very much a hands-on person for learning, like almost like I hear it, then I have to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that doesn't work for everyone. Some people are more visual learners, more auditory. But it almost is like, let's take it.
Yeah.
Let's have a play at this. Let's
Right.
play. I love that word, play.
Mm-hmm.
Let's play,
Right.
you know?
And not to be scared of that.
Yeah.
Right. And we talked about goal setting in episode 1, where write it down and do it. And even if you're in the middle of a traumatic curveball, like, how do you want to present yourself and be that support person for yourself or those around you? And don't don't be afraid of it. And
Yeah.
we're going to talk about breaking that down here in a little bit, but sometimes you just need to go ahead, say it. Microdose. Go ahead, say it.
Microdose. Yeah, we need to
Microdose. We
microdose.
did a microdose,
Yeah.
guys.
I also think like there's this expectation that we all, as society, everyone thinks that you have to have it figured out before you can move forward. But I actually think it's the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a real life experience of that. April 1st, happy for April Fools. We
Mhm.
obviously launched. We thought we had to have everything together before that launch. And we were faced with just the fact, we work full time, we have our careers. This is our little passion project.
Mhm.
We were not quite prepared come April 1st to launch. Like we hadn't got our socials together. Our website wasn't built, all these things. And we looked at each other and we're like, we're just got to do this.
Yeah.
And it was messy. It still is. Like we're still figuring,
Yeah.
several weeks on, we're still figuring things out. However, I feel like that was a great example of us going, you know what, we don't have to wait for everything to be ready to move forward.
It's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's because you are your own harshest critic,
Mhm.
right? And the people that are joining us and watching it, they probably didn't go and say, "Oh, the website wasn't done.
You
Oh,
may have
their
done.
social
And that's
slipped.
fair.
Like, what a horrible launch, right?
We'll take it. We'll take
Yeah,
it.
and it is what it is, right? So I think we have to all give ourselves some grace sometimes too when you're going through something and you're in that experimentation phase. You're not going to have it all figured out, and I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. To your point, where whether it's organizing your wedding or having a child or buying a home, it's not going to be 100% perfect. You will cripple yourself so many times over if you live in that with that tunnel vision that that's how it has to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to throw caution to the wind and let it go and figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving forward, even though you're not ready, is okay.
Hmm.
You'll learn some things about yourself,
Yeah.
and you may repeat it all over
Right.
again.
Yeah. Sometimes you might make that mistake a couple times. And we talked about in episode 1, episode 2, finding that partner, right? That
Yeah.
I think as women, sometimes we feel like I can do all this on my shoulders of myself. I don't need help. I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to burden people, but find that partner.
Yeah.
And so you can go at it together or, find that sounding board that you can talk to people about what you're going through. So then you can get your mind right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is also this whole idea of the unexpected gift of starting over.
Hmm.
So it can be difficult, but it also creates brand new possibilities.
Yeah.
Some examples of those are discovering new passions,
Hmm.
forming new relationships, redefining priorities, and gaining resilience. Many people say that a difficult transition ultimately led to growth. You might say sometimes the chapters we never planned end up teaching us the most. I
Yeah.
like that quote.
Yeah. And it's so true, right? You think
Mhm.
about things that you've gone through in life and when you go back in hindsight and reflect on that, there is a sense of gratitude having gone through it, that you've made it through and how much you've grown or changed and hopefully became a better person because of it.
It's like that straight path and your GPS saying, go right, go right, go
Hmm.
right, go
Yeah.
left. I remember once in the very early days of like the GPS systems, um, the quickest route for me to get, I was working for a pharmaceutical company at the time and I had to get to a vet practice. And it told me the quickest route was to literally go over this body of water. There was no bridge, just my
You hear
car.
about people doing that.
Like, I'm not going over the whole body of water. It took me an extra hour to
Yeah.
then go back round, an hour that I hadn't planned for.
Right.
But every time I think about recalculating a GPS, that whole idea of I drove up there. So like, yes, because I was running kind of late anyway, wasn't the most planned. There'd been some cattle in the road
Hmm.
and I got stuck. And then suddenly I'm like, oh no, I can't do this.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And this could be an hour later. And I remember like kind of tail between my legs calling and saying, hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to be an hour late. I have got you lunch though.
Right.
But that's life,
Yeah.
right?
So yeah, life when you have, here's your map. This is how you're going to get there. And sometimes life reroutes you
Yeah.
and you're forced to figure that out on your own sometimes. So yeah, don't be scared of that. That's I guess the very human part of life. Yeah.
So like we always like to unravel, which I think we've done a really good job of like digging into this and
Hmm.
just really poking around. But I think now if we try and uplift where we can kind of offer some
Yeah.
hopeful guidance and resources. I think the first one is giving yourself permission to not have all the answers.
Right. Yeah.
That transitions are uncertain by
Yeah.
nature.
Yep.
Um, I think remain curious.
Yep.
Remaining curious, I think, is key um, to trying to figure it out.
Yep.
Um,
What is life trying to teach me here? I think
yeah.
sometimes that reflection of like, it's easy to be like, why is this happening to me?
Hmm.
But when you're in the thick of learning that lesson and experimenting, I think it's good to dig deep and be like, okay, well, what can I learn from this? What maybe is life trying to teach me here so I can be better for the next experience, right?
I think also on that, I often sometimes are like, why me? Why
Yes.
me?
Yeah.
But then I think I have to have the reality that bad things aren't just happening to me.
Hmm.
You know, obstacles are not just happening to me.
Yeah.
We don't always share with each other those obstacles. Like, I
Right.
feel like it's one of those things that you are like, oh, this happened. I'm doomed. It's bad
Right.
luck,
And it's easy when you're in a funk, it's easy just to
Yeah.
stay in that funk,
Yeah.
right? And I try to think about, okay, this was like a shitty day or a shitty experience, but what really good things happen every day, even in the scope of a really bad day or bad experience. Like at least you can say, I still have this roof over my head,
Yeah.
or I still have my health, or I have my kids here, or I still have my job, or I'm still able to do these things. Like when life gets you down, there's still at least three things that are going really well in your life, and you have to hang on to those. That's what will get you through those tough days, right? And to know that even when it's really tough, you don't have to, like you said, have all the answers that
Mhm.
we talk about in the past, like you don't have to eat the whole elephant, that take it in stages, take it in baby steps, get what you can get done today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like even just sharing it, sometimes when bad things happen,
Hmm.
I will go to we've got like a text group with a couple of other friends, close
Hmm.
friends, and I will dump it there.
Yeah.
It's like if it's shared,
Yeah.
it's kind of just off my shoulders a
Yeah.
little, and there's some advice and some words of support and wisdom that
Yeah.
just, feel good.
Yeah. And I think too that, like we always say on this show, we are not professionals,
Yeah.
we are not doctors, we are not experts, but sometimes just getting that off your chest, knowing that there's certain circumstances that our friend group doesn't necessarily have the answer for,
Mhm.
but it just sometimes feels good to share it. And sometimes you get some really funny responses back that really do not make sense.
Mhm.
Maybe you, word of caution should not explore those options as we're trying to make light of a shitty situation. But at least you can have the laugh and it gets you through it. And there's your gratitude right there. You're like, okay, I'm dealing with the situation. Did my friend group have the right answers? Maybe not, but it really felt good to share it and to hear their funny responses. And that like light lift helped me get through that moment too.
Well, and I think you touched on there's two good things there that we've kind of reflected in other podcasts previous to this, is sharing it,
Yep.
like that Mel Robbins. I know that was a goal, and writing it down and not hiding it away, but it goes to normal life as well.
Yeah.
Sharing something can bring a relief to you.
Yes.
And then humor.
Hmm.
I remember us talking at length of how humor can help you deal with really difficult situations.
Right.
And I think sometimes someone weighing in with something a little dark,
Right. Yeah.
a little wrong, kind of just, shifts the mood of, oh my gosh, this is happening to me. I'm down in the
Definitely.
doldrums,
Yeah.
it's that downward spiral to like, okay, there is a humorous side to
Yes.
this. Sometimes a little too early. But,
Yeah. Too quick. Too quick.
but
But
yeah.
lean on that community, the
Hmm.
community that you have, whether it's your friend group, your family, coworkers, or you can lean on us too.
Yeah.
Like, if you're dealing with something, bring it on. We want to hear from you too. And
Yeah.
it's a safe space. So,
I think another one is staying curious. I'm a big fan of staying curious. I think
hmm.
I think my mum used to say to me, curiosity killed the cat.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, does that mean I should be curious or not? I'm sorry, my dog has just started to bark right now.
He's being
Obviously,
curious.
yeah,
Darby
he
is being
is. He
curious.
is.
Yeah.
Um, but I think curiosity is such a gift,
Yes.
just to explore and
Right.
ask questions
Hmm.
and be inquisitive.
Right. And not just to fall stagnant on life. I
Mhm.
think that once you are on that straight path, or maybe you believe you're through that messy middle, then this is your like coasting phase. Like there's still, I always hope that people have that desire to grow and learn and change. And, I think we talk about this for us. It's leading by example for our children and be like,
Mhm.
hey, we're in our 40s, but we can be on this reinvention tour. And our lives are not set in stone. We can continue to evolve and be people who want to be and play and explore and be curious and see how it goes and not care so much what people think, when we are along that journey, even though it can be crazy at times. So I think there's freedom in doing that.
And it's so funny because kids are so naturally curious, right?
Yes.
Like you watch them and they're just curious about the whole world.
They ask a
And
ton of questions.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
and experiment. They experiment in play and
Hmm.
just like almost sometimes I feel like, can I be a kid again? Can
Right.
I can I play? Can I experiment? Can I be curious?
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I think going back to your whole not eat the elephant,
Yep.
taking small actions. So experiment rather than waiting for clarity.
Yep.
Just try things. Might
Yeah.
not work for you, but trying it will let you know if it's going to work for you or
Right.
not.
Yeah. Yeah. And to know there's so many resources out there now,
Mhm.
like if you wanted to write a book or, do try something new that could be out of your comfort zone, that you can go on to an AI tool or a Google search and say, how would I do this? How would I
Mhm.
start this? Like, start to get some of that knowledge to understand if this is feasible for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lean on community. I think this is
Hmm.
so important. And I really would urge you to lean on this as a community.
Yeah.
This is part of our purpose, part of our mission is to provide a community where people can support each other. And I think leaning into that can help you not feel so isolated. And that connection really does help.
Yeah.
We're all human
Yep.
and humans are really social beings.
Yeah.
Even if you're introverted, I feel like you still need some sort of social connection to help you go through life.
Yeah. And the studies show that, right? Like it coming out of COVID where people were very alone and isolated, or even living in a world where we're so digitally inclined just to have our faces on our phones or on our TVs or computers. That's not healthy.
Yeah.
Like you need to have a community and interaction, whether it's a church or a group or at the gym or whatever you're into. You need that community to share, and there's so much data that supports a healthy community and what that can give back to you.
One study that we found really interesting a few weeks ago was that they say you should see your girlfriends every 21 days. So,
22.
oh, 22 days,
Yeah.
sorry. Every 22 days, like I added that extra,
Yeah.
take a day out.
It's cheating.
Um, so that you can feel like that sense of connection and it really helps your well-being.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, our little group has now started to keep to that mantra. It's
It's
like, yeah,
hard sometimes to find a common day between the four of us. We're like, are you
yeah.
kidding me? We're not going to see each other for
Mhm.
30 days. But sometimes it doesn't work, but it makes us mindful
Yeah.
that we need to make that a priority.
And it's a silly little anecdotal thing, but at the same time, I think there is probably some reality and truth behind it as
Hmm.
well. So,
Yeah.
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 So, we're going to ask you, listeners, have you ever had a moment where life didn't go the way you expected and you had to begin again?
And what happened as you've tried to move forward? What surprised you about that experience? So, you can think about that, internalize that, and think about how it's changed you as an individual, good, bad, or indifferent. And if you want to share that, drop it in the socials, send us an email at hello@unravelanduplift.com. You can find that on our website. And we may share some of those from time to time. If you feel, that you want to open that up to us. Yeah.
So, I think one thing that we need to probably just talk about is how starting over can feel like losing something.
Yeah. Yeah. That, like we said, that it is a big change and shift, but it can also be a beginning of something, right? Something that you would never have put yourself in because it wasn't on that straight path, or something that you could never have imagined.
I think life has its plan for us, but it's not always that straight line.
Yeah.
It can be curved, it can be bumpy,
Hmm.
it can take you to a body of water
It called
or a mountain.
called a tow truck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I also, think that just because the story isn't exactly how you had planned it doesn't mean that you're not still getting there. There can be another way to get there, right? Or you can figure out there's a new path, there's a new fork in the road that takes you on this new journey.
Yeah. And I think one of the bravest things us as human beings do is to take that next step, and okay, that has to be in a way that feels comfortable for you
Hmm.
in your own time. But I think taking that next step forward when something comes your way that is unexpected is one of the bravest things you can do.
Yeah. And I think there's like a good rule of advice to, you know, we are so it's so simple for us to give advice to other people, right?
Mhm.
Who are in a situation, but we very rarely listen to ourselves.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like for me, I take myself out of the situation and say, well, what would I tell myself if this was my girlfriend? And I would say that this is what I would do, right? But when we're in it, sometimes you just cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so if you find yourself being stuck in that messy middle for too long, sometimes it's okay to marinate there for a little bit and figure it out and feel the feels. But at some point, you need to figure out how you get back on track. So listen to your own advice as if you were going to give it to somebody else.
I think that's one of the biggest coaching questions that's probably asked when someone's very stuck
Hmm.
is if a friend came to you about this same situation, what would the
Yeah.
advice be that you would give them?
Hmm.
Because it really, like you say, it helps you just
Yeah.
internalize, okay, what would I say to someone that came to me?
Hmm.
And it really gives you that moment to think upon it. reflect,
Yeah.
and then say it out loud.
And even in some of our sessions, like we would get on a topic and I would say out loud and myself, I'm like, I know the answer to this.
Mhm.
Because even in the beginning, when Claire was getting her hours in to be certified as a coach, she came to our friend group and says, hey, would you guys, help me through this? I need so many hours. And, I told Scott, I'm like, what am I going to talk to Claire about? Like, she's my friend. And like, we talk about things already. Like, I don't think I have anything to talk about. And then, like, our first session, it was just like the verbal vomit. And there was like questions we were exploring, and in my heart of hearts I knew the answer to them, but sometimes when you actually just start talking about them, you're like, and you sort of see the writing on the wall, if you will, then you're like, oh, right, yes, that is how I feel about this. I do know the answer to these questions, but when you're living them and you're not really vocalizing them or making sense of them wholeheartedly, you can get lost in that. So
Yeah,
I think that's super helpful just to get it out and realize that you know the answers. You're
you do.
smart and you're capable and you know how to get through this, but you have to hold yourself accountable to do it.
Everyone has the answers to their own questions for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if today's conversations with us, if today's
Together. Yeah.
conversations together resonated with you, please share this episode with a friend who also might find benefit from navigating a new chapter.
Yeah. And, like we said before, please follow us on our socials or on our channel and wherever you listen to your podcasts. And so then you don't miss the episode and, some of our fabulous advice.
Yeah. So subscribe so that you can join our weekly resets. We've got practical tools out there as well on our website. And I just want everyone to know this is a reminder as well that you're not alone.
Yeah.
People are not alone.
Yep.
There is a community. There are things going on in people's lives that others are living similarly, differently, but there's things
Yeah.
happening to folks.
And I know that everybody has related to this episode. Everybody's dealt with a curveball in life. So this is resonating with you. You know it's resonating with others. So if you're having someone who is in a little bit of a funk or they're going through something, share this with them because this may be what they need to say, okay, this is just a passage of time. This will pass.
Yeah. And we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want to hear reviews. We want to hear your thoughts
Yeah.
and ideas.
Yeah. And if there's new things that you want to throw on the table for us to discuss with the community, we would love to hear that. So tag us, message us, leave us a review. Yeah.
We're not experts, but we've found that there's good resources.
Yeah.
So let us do some of the legwork on that and find resources that might be helpful for you as well. I
Yeah.
can't get my words out today.
So thank you for unraveling with us.
And uplifting each other along the way.
Thanks, guys. Bye.